I'm Ron. This is my Ferrari 430 Scuderia, and I'm checking out my CV joints on my rear axles here. I've got the car apart in the middle of my clutch job. I did the engine side, still finishing up the gearbox side, but while I have this full, great access to these, I want to check them out because I posted on Ferrari chat. I have a thread there with my same username about when I disconnected these axles. When I first disconnected this one and got it free from the gearbox, liquid dripped out, about 10 drops of liquid. And it wasn't gearbox liquid, of course. It shouldn't be because there's no liquid exchange between the gearbox and the axle, but there's of course grease inside here, and so it must have been somewhat liquefied and somehow leaked through, and when I pulled the bolts out, the bolts were wet as well. That side was dry. Well, now if you see here, I grab it by my hand, I can move it pretty freely, pretty easily, the CV joint, as it should move. That's the whole idea of it. This one is a bit stiffer. I can move it, but it's a bit stiffer. So, time to change them. What we could do, and I already have them on order, the kits, which include the boot at the other end. Normally what you do is you take off the calipers and the rotor, and you take the suspension apart to pull it out from that side. And the other side there's a boot as well that needs to be replaced. I'll get to that when I look at the brakes and everything on that side. Everything should be good on that side, but I'll get to that then. While I have this access, I'll take this off here. Now normally you use something like a hammer and a chisel here to get this off, because this comes with the kit, this cap here, a replacement one of these, so this is sacrificial here. So I will be trying that, but there isn't too much room. Okay, so I just picked out this clamp from underneath and pulling it off now by hand. You can see the kind of clamp it is. That was threaded through there and folded over, holding it on. Alright, now to try to get this CV joint off here, tapping this off. I don't have my hammer right now, but it's coming. And there you go. And there's the inside of this very sturdy CV joint. We'll be putting the gloves on and taking that off. Okay, I'm back to the CV joint now. Forget everything I said before about trying to get it off there by removing this clamp first. Well, you got to also remove the C-ring in there. So, get yourself the tool. And pop it out. And there you go. Now, with that out of the way, it should come off. There you go. And off to the bench with this to clean this up. Okay, so I've got both CV joints out of the vehicle. This one I haven't cleaned out yet. I've gotten some of the grease out of there, but not all of it by far. This one I pretty much cleaned up thoroughly. And let me just show you what's what. This is the boot. The one clamp here we had to take off. This clamp we don't have to take off, but this is all disposable. And this is the outside cap that's disposable. And the C-ring clip, whatever it's called. And these are the main pieces, or all the pieces actually, of the CV joint. As you can see. I'm just going to talk. There's 6 balls here, bearings. We'll talk briefly about orientation. On the main outer sleeve here, you see there's a groove. That groove faces towards the gearbox. On this piece here, you'll see that this is flush here. On this side, it's not flush. The flush side goes towards the gearbox. This piece doesn't matter which orientation it goes. But you see it goes in sideways at an angle first, 90 degrees perpendicular, then you move it to get it in place, and we'll play with that later. But that's the orientation of all that joint. Okay, now I'm going to clean out the other one. Right here's everything for the CV joint. I've got both of my CV joints all cleaned up. This one's put back together here, temporarily anyway. This one over here, here are the pieces of it. 6 ball bearings. Hylamar, that's used to seal these to that. That was the wrong way. This one's on the outside here. So the Hylamar is going to go around there because there was a really weird gray gunky glue around that originally. Anyway, there's also another boot for the other end. Comes with 2 bags of grease, 2 different part numbers, but they're the same grease. One's just a larger quantity, which is going to be for the boot near the gearbox. One's going to be for the boot at the wheel. And they give you a new ring, clamps. This is already clamped on, ready to go. This is the first CV joint from the right side of the car that I've just greased up with the bag of grease that they've given us. Both sides. But I've also tried to wipe it pretty clean along the faces of it, where I'm going to put the Hylamar, which is the sealer. And one kit came with a small tube of Hylamar. I bought online a big tube so I can do both sides. And that's going to seal both the boot metal and the front cap to there, and hopefully keep the grease from coming out here or even getting into there, so that when you open it up it doesn't drip out like it did on me on the one side. So my plan is to put the boot on the car first and then put that on and then bring them together. Well, then bolt Hylamar it. The Hylamar you have to wait 10 minutes. And then bolt everything together with a set of bolts I just got at the hardware store temporarily, because I'm not ready to bolt it to the gearbox because the gearbox isn't in the car. But I want it bolted together so it dries up nice and tight. So that's the plan, and I'll show you how it looks when I get over to the car. Okay, so obviously I'm back at the vehicle here, and I got the boot on here that I can move it, not so easily, but not so easily at all, but I can move it. And yeah, now time to put the CV joint on there. Hopefully I have everything else I need right around me here. I think I do. Get this greasy mess picked up. Okay, there's the joint, and this little groove there goes towards the gearbox. And so putting this on the axle, just slip right on there. If it were the other way, it wouldn't go on there. So here comes the fun part. Now I've got to get that C-clip on there. The C-ring clip, whatever it's called. Grease off my fingers. Best way to do that is to use the glove and get my clip here with the tool. And let's see how lucky I get here. There's grease in my way. Don't know that I'm in there far enough yet. Push this clip down. And that might have clipped it in there. Let's find out for sure. Yeah, it's in there. It's definitely in there. I can feel it. And that's great. Okay. Now, let's get this grease away. Maybe some edits here. Okay. Now, we're going to Hylamar it, and then we're going to let it sit for 10 minutes. So, get the grease off the outside here, make sure. So that Hylamar doesn't touch anything. Okay. So this is Hylamar sealant. It's blue, and I think it's a little bit runny, so I got a mat underneath there, and I'm going to be getting down there. I squeeze. Is it liquid or is it a paste? It's okay. It's got some consistency to hold itself. So I'm going to go around this outside edge here. Excuse me for a second. I'm going to do the same in here, and the outside edge there, and the other plate, and then I'll put them together, so I'll come back. Okay, time to put this thing together. Put some pins in here to align it. Already see it needs a little twist this way. That wheel spins very freely, which is a good thing. My brake is not frozen. Pick up some of that grease there. Wipe in. Okay. All good. Line up the cap with the holes, bolts. And start right on there. And let's see if I can do this. I have my hammer to tap it, but wrenching it might be the way to go here. Alright, I'm just going to keep wrenching this. Well, I'm quite happy how that turned out. Got it all tightened up there. And allowing the Hylamar to dry and seal that all up. I'm also quite happy with look how easy this is to move. It's just amazing compared to what it was. And amazing even compared to what I thought was a good one on the other side. And so, time to do the other side. And we're going to leave those bolts in until I get the gearbox back in, or ready to put it back in and put this back together.